Capricorn, something just fell. And even though it wasn't you, somehow, you felt it. Right in your chest. In your bones. As if your soul flinched before your mind could even make sense of it. There are moments in life where nothing visible has changed, yet you know everything is shifting. A silence that suddenly becomes too loud. A conversation that leaves a strange ache behind. A fall that wasn't yours, but cracked something deep within you. This is not about drama. Not about chaos. This is about energy, a cosmic realignment that has begun without your permission. You see, someone close to you just collapsed. Maybe not physically, but their spirit dropped. Their image shattered. Their mask slipped. And here's the mystery, their fall was never random. It was always meant to shake something inside you. Something ancient. Something hidden. Something you've spent years pretending wasn't there. Capricorn, listen closely. Because what I'm about to reveal is not entertainment, it's initiation. You're not watching this by accident. The timing is divine. Your outer world might look steady, but beneath the surface, a sacred fracture is opening. Not to destroy you, but to let something real, something alive, finally rise. And I need you to understand this from the beginning. What's falling apart isn't just someone else's life. It's the illusion you've built around your own. You were never meant to carry all of this alone. You were never designed to live behind walls so tall, not even your soul could breathe. But you did. You did, because you had to. Because strength was your safety. Because silence was your survival. But now, that silence has become unbearable. And the universe is no longer whispering. It's roaring. This fall you're witnessing, it's not a curse. It's a signal. It's the sound of the universe cracking open the next chapter of your destiny. And no, Capricorn, you don't have to be ready. You just have to be willing. To look honestly, to feel deeply, to hear what you've avoided for far too long. Because the biggest shift isn't what's happening around you. It's what's waking up inside you. So if your heart is pounding, good. If your skin is buzzing, pay attention. If your body feels on edge, trust it. You're not breaking down. You're being invited in. And if you walk with me through this, to the very end, you will discover something most people never dare to face. That sometimes, the fall is the only way home. Stay with me, because the final part of this journey holds the key. Not just to understanding this fall, but to unlocking the real you, hidden beneath it all. Part 1, the crack in the mask. Capricorn, you've worn your strength like a second skin. But what happens when even strength begins to fracture? You see, most people don't understand the kind of pressure you live under. To stay composed. To be the one others depend on. To walk into every room like you've already handled the fire, even if it's still burning inside you. But here's the truth you've been trying to ignore. Even the strongest mask begins to crack under the weight of silent suffering. This fall that just happened, the one that shook you, it isn't just about them. It's a divine mirror. And it's reflecting the tiny fractures in your own armor. You might not see them on the surface. You still wake up on time. You still get the job done. You still offer advice, support, and logic to those around you. But underneath, there's exhaustion. Not the kind that rest can fix, but the kind that comes from carrying a version of yourself that no longer fits. A version that's always fine, always capable, always in control. But Capricorn, let's be honest, when was the last time you truly felt like you? Not the you that others admire. Not the one who's got it all together. But the real you, the one who has fears, dreams, sadness, softness. The fall you just witnessed in someone else, it's the external version of what's been brewing inside you for a long time. That mask of competence, perfection, and composure, it's starting to tremble. Not because you've failed, but because the real you is ready to be seen. Let me tell you a story. There was once a Capricorn woman who spent her life making everything look beautiful from the outside, the house, the resume, the marriage. People called her admirable, reliable, even untouchable. But one morning, she broke down alone in her car. Not because something huge had happened, but because the small lie of "I'm fine" had finally become too heavy. She told no one. Drove home. Made dinner. smiled. But inside, she felt it, a crack. That's how it begins. Not with fireworks. Not with explosions. But with a whisper. This isn't me anymore. And Capricorn. That whisper is growing louder in you. And you know it. So here's the question that matters now. Are you willing to let the mask fall before life rips it off for you? Because this is the sacred choice you're being offered. To stay behind the wall of strength and image. Or to step into a deeper kind of power. One that doesn't pretend. One that doesn't perform. Yes, it's vulnerable. Yes, it's terrifying. But it's also real. And real is where your freedom lives. You weren't born to be a fortress. You were born to be a mountain, grounded, ancient, but alive. Let that truth settle in your bones. You don't lose power when your mask cracks. You gain it because now, your truth can finally breathe. Life lesson. True strength is not about holding it all together, it's about knowing when to let it fall apart. You don't have to be the strong one all the time. Sometimes, your healing begins when your mask begins to tremble. Part 2. Someone just fell. Capricorn, there are moments when the universe doesn't whisper, it shouts. This is one of them. Someone in your life just fell. Maybe you saw it happen. Maybe it was silent, invisible, unexpected, like a message in the wind. But you felt it. And not just as an observer. As if something within you tilted too. Maybe it was someone you respected. Someone you depended on. Someone you thought was untouchable until now. And now, their fall is echoing inside you. Not because you caused it. Not because you could have prevented it. But because their fall is cosmically entwined with your transformation. Capricorn, this is the hard truth most people don't talk about. Sometimes it takes another person's collapse for us to realize the walls we've built inside are just as fragile. You're not cold. You're not unfeeling. You've just learned how to survive by staying a few steps ahead of collapse. But this fall you're witnessing, it caught you off guard. Why? Because somewhere, deep down, you were holding on to their strength as an extension of your own. And now that they're unraveling, you can't help but ask. If they can fall, what does that mean about everything I've believed, everything I've held together? It shakes you. Not because they were perfect, but because they were a part of the story you told yourself to stay upright. A story that said, as long as they're strong, I don't have to feel what's breaking in me. But now their fall has cracked the mirror. And you can finally see yourself. Raw. Real. Unarmored. Let me take you into a moment. A Capricorn man once told me that the strongest person in his life, his older brother, suddenly quit everything. His job, his marriage, his perfect life. Everyone judged. Everyone speculated. But Capricorn, he froze. Because he realized his brother's collapse wasn't weakness. It was freedom. And for the first time in his life, he questioned if everything he had built was a reflection of truth or just a defense against becoming like his brother. Capricorn, I'm not saying you're about to collapse. I'm saying this event, this fall, is your soul's invitation to finally stop running from your own tenderness. There's a tenderness in you that's been buried under layers of logic, responsibility, and reputation. And now, with their mask on the floor, you can finally hear your own heart whisper. What if I don't want to carry all of this anymore? This is not betrayal. This is not disloyalty. This is liberation. It's okay to look at someone else's fall and ask, what part of me needs to break free too? Because their story isn't just theirs, it's a mirror, a lesson, a message. You're not here to maintain a life of silent pressure. You're here to become whole. And sometimes, wholeness begins with one terrifying moment of honesty. I'm not okay either. And I don't want to pretend anymore. Life lesson, part 2. Sometimes, someone else's collapse is the doorway to your awakening. Don't fear it. Let it reveal what in you has been waiting to fall free. Part 3. Mirrors and echoes. Capricorn, not every reflection comes from a mirror. Some truths echo from the fall of others and ring straight through your soul. When someone close to you collapses, the world doesn't always pause. Life keeps moving. People keep talking. But deep within you, something doesn't sit right. You're not just watching them fall. You're feeling it. Because their unraveling isn't separate from your journey, it's a signal. Capricorn, have you noticed how much of your identity is built around other people's stability? Their confidence made you feel safe. Their approval made you feel valuable. Their success gave your sacrifices meaning. But now they're cracked. They're hurting. And suddenly, you can't ignore the questions echoing in your own mind. If they were faking it, am I? If they burned out, am I burning, too, and just not showing it? This is the mirror moment. Where someone else's truth collides with your performance. Where their fall echoes through every room inside you that you've locked shut. Capricorn, you've mastered the art of silence. You've learned how to keep moving even when your legs are shaking. You've built structures, habits, entire identities just to stay ahead of the fear. But now the mirror is here. The echo is loud. And the question becomes impossible to ignore. What part of me have I been hiding behind responsibility? Because here's the secret. Sometimes, what you admire in others is what you've denied in yourself. And sometimes, what frightens you about their fall is what you've buried so deep, you forgot it was there. Let me tell you a story. A Capricorn client once told me that her best friend, a woman she admired for always being cheerful and unbothered, admitted to struggling with depression. The moment she heard it, her first reaction wasn't sympathy. It was panic. Why? Because that confession shattered the illusion. If even she was struggling, what did that mean about all the things Capricorn had been suppressing? It wasn't just her friend's honesty that cut deep, it was the mirror it held up. Capricorn, this moment in your life isn't random. You're being invited to see beyond the projections. To stop comparing your insides to someone else's outside. To stop playing roles in stories that aren't even yours. This is what awakening feels like. Uncomfortable. Disorienting. But real. You've been so strong for so long. But strength without honesty becomes a performance. And the echoes of that lie, they grow louder with every passing day. What if your greatest power now is not in holding it all together, but in finally listening to the parts of you that are screaming for truth? Because this isn't just their fall. This is your inner earthquake. And while others may not hear it, you do. You feel the tension in your chest. The exhaustion behind your eyes. The quiet voice that says, I can't keep doing this the same way anymore. Capricorn, the mirror isn't here to shame you. The echo isn't here to scare you. They're here to free you. Let the fall you've witnessed become a revelation not just about them, but about everything you've outgrown. You're not here to pretend. You're here to evolve. Life Lesson, Part 3. The people we admire and the people who break in front of us, both are mirrors. What they reflect isn't about them. It's about the truth we've buried in ourselves. Part 4, The Silent Collapse. Capricorn, not all collapses make noise. Some happen so quietly, even you don't hear them until everything inside starts to feel hollow. From the outside, everything may seem intact. You show up. You respond to every message. You meet every deadline. You even smile when people need you to. But internally, a quiet collapse has begun. And it's not sudden, it's slow. Almost unnoticeable. Until one day, the numbness becomes louder than your thoughts. Capricorn, you've been trained by life, by upbringing, by necessity to keep moving. You don't pause. You push. You don't complain. You carry. You don't collapse. You cope. But here's the cost. In becoming unbreakable, you've slowly stopped feeling. And now, even when something is breaking, it barely registers because you've lived in survival mode for so long that pain has become background noise. Let me ask you something. Capricorn, when was the last time you truly let yourself break? Not in secret. Not in silence. But openly. Honestly. Without shame. The fall you witnessed in someone else. It cracked something in them publicly. But your collapse. It's happening quietly. In the pauses between your words. In the moments you zone out while washing dishes. In the sigh you release at 1 a.m. when no one is around. You don't need a dramatic breakdown to be in crisis. You just need to look honestly at how much of your daily life is built on emotional suppression. Let me share a true story. There was a Capricorn who once told me, I don't cry. Not because I don't feel, but because I've trained myself to believe tears mean I'm losing control. And for years, they functioned. They succeeded. But the moment their partner left, not out of anger, but from emotional disconnection, they were forced to face a brutal truth. I didn't lose them because I was too weak. I lost them because I refused to show that I could be soft. That's when the collapse began. Not because something happened, but because everything they refused to feel finally had nowhere left to hide. Capricorn, the same might be happening in you right now. You're not burned out from work. You're burned out from pretending. You're not tired of people. You're tired of hiding your soul behind a version of yourself that's always fine. And now, the pressure is building. Not because life is harder, but because your spirit is calling out for something more honest. This is your invitation. To stop measuring your worth by your output. To stop judging your value by how little you need from others. To realize this. You don't have to be a rock to be worthy. Sometimes, you're more powerful when you let yourself melt. And if the collapse is already happening, even if no one sees it, let it. Because the silent collapse is not your failure. It's your soul saying, enough. I want to live, not just survive. Life Lesson, Part 4. You don't have to break publicly to be in transformation. The collapse you feel in silence is still real, and sometimes, it's the most sacred part of your becoming. Part 5. When control is no longer enough. Capricorn, control used to be your anchor. But what happens when it no longer holds you? It holds you back. You've spent years perfecting the art of control. Your schedules are tight. Your emotions measured. Your reactions strategic. You've survived entire storms by holding everything together when everyone else fell apart. But now, something's shifting. And for the first time, control isn't bringing peace, it's causing pressure. Because when you live your life trying to manage every outcome, anticipate every move, and suppress every fear, you don't feel safe. You feel suffocated. Capricorn, there's a lie you've been taught and maybe even believed. If I can control it, I won't be hurt. But let's be honest. You've controlled relationships and still felt alone. You've controlled your career and still felt unfulfilled. You've controlled your image and still felt misunderstood. Because control doesn't prevent pain, it just postpones the truth. And the truth is this. You are not meant to micromanage your destiny. You are meant to co-create it with your intuition, with your heart, with the universe. Let me share a story that may sound familiar. A Capricorn woman built her entire life around certainty. She had a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, a retirement plan. Everything was organized until her body started breaking down from stress-related illness. No diagnosis, no answers, just fatigue, anxiety, disconnection. It wasn't until her therapist asked one simple question that everything unraveled. What's the cost of being in control all the time? She cried. Not because she didn't know the answer, but because she did. She realized she'd built a life that looked perfect, but felt like a prison. Capricorn, is it possible you're doing the same? Not because you're weak, but because somewhere along the way, you believed that being in control equals being safe. But what if now the bravest thing you can do is let go? What if true strength is not about steering the ship, but trusting the current that your soul has already chosen? Because here's the spiritual truth. Control is the language of fear. Trust is the language of transformation. You don't need to control everything anymore. You need to allow yourself to feel, to receive, to respond instead of react. And no, that doesn't mean you stop being responsible. It means you start being real. Real enough to say, I don't know what comes next, but I'm not going to force it anymore. That's when the shift happens. That's when the universe begins to move, not because you demand it, but because you allow it. So take a breath, Capricorn. Put down the checklist. Let go of the perfect plan. And ask yourself, what would I choose if I wasn't afraid of it falling apart? Because maybe, just maybe, the fall is what sets you free. Life Lesson, Part 5. Control may have helped you survive, but it won't help you evolve. Sometimes the most powerful move is surrendering to a path you can't predict, but your soul already recognizes. Part 6, the financial shift begins. Capricorn, what if money was never meant to come from pressure, but from alignment? You've always believed in earning your place. You work harder than most. You sacrifice sleep, peace, time, all in the name of responsibility. And yes, it's gotten you far. But here's the question no one ever dared to ask you. Is your success feeding you or draining you? Because the truth is, you've been building an empire on exhaustion. And now the foundation is trembling. Capricorn, you were born with a gift, the ability to manifest through structure, through focus, through time. But somewhere along the way, you were taught that value comes only through struggle. That ease equals laziness. That rest equals weakness. So you pushed. You hustled. You burned out quietly and then showed up anyway because failure was never an option. But now, something inside you is waking up. And it's asking, what if I don't want to succeed like this anymore? Not because you're done dreaming, but because you're done bleeding for the dream. Let me tell you about a Capricorn man I coached years ago. He built a multi-six-figure business by 34. On the outside, respected, admired. On the inside, dead. Disconnected from joy. Stuck in a loop of deadlines and decisions that felt more like obligations than passions. It wasn't until he took a spontaneous solo trip with no laptop, no plan, that he realized, I'm not chasing success anymore. I'm chasing peace. And from that moment, something shifted. Not just spiritually, but financially. He began attracting better clients. More aligned opportunities. More rest, more income, less burnout. Why? Because energy doesn't lie. And the universe doesn't reward what you force, it expands what you align with. Capricorn, the same is available to you now. But it requires one thing. You must stop defining wealth by the amount of pain it took to earn it. Let that sink in. What if your money could come through joy? Through creativity? Through flow, not just fight? It doesn't mean you stop being grounded. It means you start being guided. The financial shift that's coming your way, it's not luck. It's not random. It's the natural result of you finally returning to your truth. Because aligned money feels different. It doesn't come with anxiety. It doesn't demand your soul as payment. It comes when you stop gripping your life like a battle plan and start moving from a place of purpose. Capricorn, this is your new economy. One where energy creates currency. Where inner peace invites outer reward. Where you rise, not through suffering, but through sovereignty. Life Lesson, Part 6. Wealth created from alignment lasts longer than wealth created from fear. You don't have to suffer for success, you just have to stop betraying your truth to earn it. Part 7. Love, Loss, and Liberation. Capricorn, when you finally remove the mask, some people will step closer. Others will step away. Let them. You've always been the stable one in relationships. The reliable one. The provider. The planner. The person who remembers what everyone else forgets, including your own emotional needs. You've shown love through effort. Through sacrifice. Through protecting others, even when no one protected you. But now, the game is changing. Because when you change, your relationships must, too. And that is terrifying. You're starting to live more honestly now. You're no longer overgiving just to keep the peace. You're no longer performing just to be loved. You're no longer hiding your softness under responsibility. But here's what they never told you. Liberation has a cost. And sometimes that cost is people. Someone from your past may be returning, drawn in by your new light, your glow, your power. But they don't realize. They're not coming back to the same version of you. You've shifted. You've risen. And now the question isn't, will they come back? It's, do they still belong? Because when you start loving yourself enough to stop betraying your truth, anyone who was connected to your performance, not your essence, will feel the distance. And that's okay. Let me share a moment with you. A Capricorn woman I worked with went through a major awakening. After years of being the perfect wife, the silent sufferer, the emotional anchor for everyone, she cracked. Not in anger, but in truth. She told her partner, "I love you, but I don't recognize who I became in this relationship." And the most shocking part, he didn't leave, but she did. Not because he was evil, but because she realized she built the relationship on who she pretended to be. Capricorn, I know you're loyal. Fiercely. But what happens when that loyalty becomes a cage? When love costs you your identity, your peace, your joy? That's not love. That's bondage. And now, you're learning something wild. The most powerful form of love is the one you give yourself when you stop settling for being needed and start choosing to be seen. Some people will say you've changed. They're right. Some will say you're cold. But you're just clearer. Some will try to pull you back into your old patterns. Back into the roles that benefited them but broke you. This is where your liberation becomes real. Because now, you don't need to prove anything. You don't need to justify leaving, redefining, or protecting your peace. And if someone truly sees your heart, the real one, they will rise to meet you. Not manipulate. Not guilt. Just love. Capricorn, your love life is not breaking. It's transforming. And only those who are aligned with your truth, not your trauma, will survive the shift. Let go. Not from bitterness, but from clarity. And in that space, something unexpected will begin to arrive. Someone, maybe new, maybe reborn, who sees you without needing you to shrink, who holds you without expecting you to carry, who chooses you, not because you're useful, but because you're you. Life Lesson, Part 7. You don't lose people when you become yourself. You lose the roles you played to keep their love. What remains, or arrives, will be real. Part 8. The Destiny Door Opens. Capricorn, destiny doesn't knock. It waits for silence, and then it enters through the door you didn't know you'd left open. For months, maybe years, you felt the tension. A restlessness. A whisper. A quiet sense that there's more waiting for you. But you didn't have the map. Now, the map isn't external. It's inside you. Because with every collapse, every tear, every boundary you've reclaimed, you've been walking closer to something sacred. A moment when destiny stops being a concept and starts becoming undeniable. Capricorn, this is that moment. The fall you witnessed. The mask you dropped. The truth you embraced. It wasn't random. It was the prelude to the portal. You're standing at the edge of something you didn't plan, but that your soul has always known was coming. And here's the wildest part. It doesn't look like what you expected. It looks better because it looks like you. No more roles. No more boxes. No more fitting yourself into structures that were never built to hold your magic. The door that's opening now, it doesn't ask you to be perfect. It asks you to be honest. You may feel the urge to start something bold. A project. A business. A calling you buried years ago. You may feel the sudden clarity to leave something that once defined you. A job, a title, a circle. You may feel a deep, inner yes to a decision that terrifies your logic, but frees your spirit. Capricorn, these impulses are not random. They're instructions. They are your intuition, finally louder than your fear. Let me share a story. A Capricorn man once told me that he'd spent 10 years climbing the ladder in his company, waiting for the big promotion that would make it all worth it. But the day he got it, he felt nothing. Just silence. Until 2 weeks later, he walked into a small bookstore and saw a flyer. Looking for part-time volunteers in community literacy. He had a choice. Ignore the pull, or follow the thread. Today, he runs that same bookstore, and has never looked back. He told me, "I didn't know that flyer was a doorway, but my soul did." Capricorn, what flyer has appeared in your life? What sign, soft, quiet, illogical, keeps whispering to you? You don't need permission. You don't need a 5-year plan. You just need willingness. Because the moment you choose alignment over appearance, the universe moves. The right people show up. The right words arrive. The right moments unfold. And suddenly, what felt far away becomes magnetic. Capricorn, the destiny door doesn't open because you've earned it. It opens because you've returned to yourself. And now, you walk through not to escape the past, but to fulfill the purpose that's been waiting. Life Lesson, Part 8. Your destiny doesn't require perfection, only permission. When you stop waiting to be ready, the door reveals itself. Walk through it, even if your hands are shaking. Part 9, The Phoenix and the Mirror. Capricorn, when the ashes finally settle, you don't just rise, you see yourself clearly for the very first time. Everything you've been through, the fall, the silence, the surrender. It wasn't just about loss. It was about rebirth. And now, the dust is beginning to clear. And standing there in the quiet after the storm is someone you've never truly met before. You. But not the version of you shaped by expectations. Not the version that hustled for approval or shrunk for safety. This version, this is the Phoenix. Burned. Stripped. Reformed. Not in spite of the fire, but because of it. Capricorn, this is where the mirror appears again. But it's not reflecting someone else's fall this time. It's showing your rise. And as you look in that mirror now, you may not recognize every part. But you will feel something new. Peace. Power. Presence. You've shed layers, roles, fears, defenses, and now, what remains is truth. This truth doesn't need to perform. It doesn't need to please. It just is. And that's enough. You'll notice subtle shifts. The way you walk into a room, no longer waiting to be invited. The way you speak, no longer editing yourself to sound acceptable. The way you love, no longer begging to be chosen. Because now, you've chosen yourself. Let me share one last story. A Capricorn client once described her journey this way. I kept waiting for someone to see me, until I realized I hadn't truly seen myself. That realization changed everything. Because when you finally witness your own soul, without judgment, without filters, you stop tolerating anything that tries to make you smaller. Capricorn, you are no longer here to carry others. You're here to create with them or let them go. You're no longer here to climb meaningless ladders. You're here to build sacred foundations. You're no longer here to survive by control. You're here to thrive through trust. This Phoenix version of you, they're not reckless. They're rooted. They don't scream for validation. Their silence demands respect. They don't beg for alignment. They attract it effortlessly. And here's what's wild. Even those who once doubted you, they now feel the shift. They see it in your eyes, in your energy, in the way you take up space without apology. Some will be inspired. Others will be intimidated. But none will ignore you anymore. Because once the Phoenix rises, the world changes. Not because you asked it to, but because your presence requires it. Capricorn, this is the end of the old story. Not because it was bad, but because you've outgrown it. And what comes next is not a return. It's a revelation. Life Lesson, Part 9. You don't rise to become someone new. You rise to become someone true. The fire didn't burn you down, it burned everything that wasn't really you. Conclusion. The choice is yours now. Capricorn, you've walked through fire. You've stood at the edge of control. You've watched someone fall and realized you were falling too. But now, you rise. Not just stronger, clearer, truer, and no longer afraid of your own reflection. This was never about someone else. Not really. Their fall was simply the spark. The real transformation, the one that will change everything, has always been yours. And now, you stand at the doorway of your own becoming. Look around you. What's no longer in your life was never meant to stay. What's still standing is what's real. And what's arriving next? That's what you were always meant to receive, but couldn't, until now. You've released the need to carry what isn't yours. You've allowed the collapse, not as a failure, but as a spiritual initiation. And through it, you've found something rare in this world. Your true power. The power that doesn't chase. The power that doesn't beg. The power that doesn't shrink. The power that knows. Capricorn, the universe is no longer testing you. It's trusting you. And that's the highest compliment fate can give. You don't need to run anymore. You don't need to explain. You don't need to wait. You've earned this. So now, the only question that remains is this. Are you ready to live without the armor? Are you ready to build a life that doesn't just look good but feels like home to your soul? Are you ready to choose what your past self never believed was possible? If your answer is yes, then let the universe hear it. Capricorn, write this below in the comments if you're ready. I let the fall reveal my truth. I rise with nothing to prove. Let your voice be heard. Let your truth be seen. Let this be the start of your new era. And if this message spoke to your soul, don't leave without subscribing to Zodiac Secrets Revealed, where your journey into the mystical truth of Capricorn only deepens from here. You were never meant to carry the world alone. You were meant to reshape it.